How are you doing on this fine evening?
I'm doing great, man. It's it's been real stormy here, so
Oh,
it's and I went into work on a Sunday, and
oh,
just what a way to begin your Sunday, and then go back to
yeah.
work on Monday. So that's why I want to do games, man.
Congratulations.
Hey, well, thanks.
Um, yeah. So, I guess I'm really interested in talking to you because you sort of showed me a little demo of this in the past. I just think like the no code stuff is really cool. I actually hadn't even heard of anyone who had done no code stuff for gaming, and so that was like, well, I
Right,
didn't even think I'd heard that like there are game programs that have no code, but I was just like, well,
right,
that's
like visual. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'd only heard about it for doing like software, like doing websites and shit. So I was like pretty surprised and that you could do. Like I knew like MIT Scratch had the little drag and drop like stuff, but I didn't know there
right.
was actually like something you could productionize and like bring into the you can
Yeah,
sell. That's pretty cool.
it's kind of weird. When I first started with it, uh, I knew nothing about game dev at all. Like, absolutely I didn't know the difference between Scratch or Unity. I really didn't, and that's probably like 4 years ago. I
Hmm. Hmm.
just and when I looked at it, and I was seeking a solution to get an app that I tried to have made, um, corrected and fixed, and I knew nothing about apps. I'm like, I need to find a way, and so I looked at like, I was like, can you do it without code? I saw these things for apps to do no code, and didn't understand any of them, didn't understand their capabilities. And I ended up somehow or another on Buildbox, which they were pushing Buildbox at the time. It was Buildbox 2, which was a 2D game engine. I guess similar to
Hmm.
Game Maker, or
Hmm.
one of those, as far as style. It was really geared for making hyper casual games. I mean, that's really all they wanted to do. It seemed like, and they were getting people to buy into the dream of start your own, game company, make a hyper casual game, and you'll
Hmm.
be a success. And they had around that time, I guess someone who was using Buildbox made a game Color Switch, which was a really successful hyper casual game. And after that happened, and they used Color Switch, Buildbox just went on a rampage to advertise and market. I ended up buying into it, watching the videos, and like I was
Nice.
like, I still can't tell you because they had so many videos that were old. It was 2D, 3D. Well, just so happened when I bought into it, they were moving to Buildbox 3 or Buildbox 3D. So it was going from the
Hmm.
2D element to 3D. And if you bought into Buildbox 2, and I paid whatever price for I actually ended up getting a lifelong subscription or whatever it
Whoa.
is. And I bought in just at the right time. I thought I got ripped off for a while because I was stuck forever. But you basically got access to Buildbox 3, and I've never used Buildbox 2 or Buildbox 2D, or now they call it Buildbox Classic. A lot of
Nice.
people are really into it. They think it's, if you ever look into that, there's a lot of people that won't even touch Buildbox 3D or Buildbox 3. As far as the diehard users, a lot of them never moved over to 3D, and that's all I knew. So that's what I learned on.
So
It was definitely a
the new one
process.
doesn't have 2D anymore, or they use
It does
3D
have 2D.
to do
It
2D.
was actually funny because when it first happened, they were like, you could do. I was kind of like making 2D games, but I was just doing like an ortho view, and I just it was still a 3D game. But now they have views in the editor where you can switch to a 2D to a 3D. But the Buildbox Classic, it operates a little bit different. I know there's some like nodes and things software that I don't totally understand.
Hmm.
But I never. It's not like apples to apples. It's a little bit different, but still, it's very similar. Um, but yeah, 3D Buildbox 3 now, it covers, you can do 2D and 3D, but there's a lot of purists that don't like using it for the 2D.
Hmm.
But I think it's pretty cool. But I honestly, every game I ever make that it's going to be like 2D, or it should be 2D. I always end up making it like 2.5D or 3D because I'm building in a
Right.
3D environment.
Right. Right. Yeah, I remember you had that demo with the wheel, just like crushing into stacked blocks.
Oh yeah,
Right, the
yeah.
spinning wheel, and like that probably could have been a
It
2D
was
game, but it looks so much better as 3D game.
it was weird. Yeah, it's. I have a real the weirdest thing, and I noticed it the other day, is like I always have tires in my games, and like
Oh,
that was like a rogue. I always think it's the funniest thing in the world to see a rogue tire, just like where it's just flying down the road on like ridiculousness and just blasts somebody's car. Just came from off the highway or whatever. I
yeah.
love like rogue tire videos. I had one come at me one time, so I'm always like wanting to make a
Whoa.
game about just pissed off tire just bouncing down, blowing things up, and that's what you saw.
Okay. Um, Interesting. So you got stuck with the 3 version, or stuck, or you just like
Yeah,
jumped
I
into
really
it, and
did.
that
I
was what
got
was
stuck
there.
into it. Yeah, and
Um,
it was totally new, and there was no manual for like a year or even
wow.
longer than that. I don't even know how I figured it out. Go ahead. I got
So
stuck
what
with it.
the so was the first thing you worked on the Constella game?
No, that came like the first thing I did was Glizzy Run. Um,
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it
was
was
that
that.
a
Okay,
notification? Did you just hear that?
I didn't.
Oh, good. That would be so unprofessional. But basically, Glizzy Run was like, I got it, and I actually went from 0 to like 100, like learning how to do things and trying to make this 3D hyper casual game. And I made it was called Glizzy Run. I'm not like the most thrilled about it. It's on
No.
it gets it
Okay.
actually got a lot of downloads, a lot more than I thought it would have. After I stopped looking at it, and I was just like, I'll keep it up there. If anybody wants to try out my games, they can go for it. I wasn't going to try to make any like big bucks off of it, but I made Glizzy Run, which is basically just a single tap. It's a hot dog, and you're just slamming him into the ground. He's going from pad to pad and going through
As one does.
yeah, exactly. You just a wiener down the old canyon, and it was kind of. I had a different idea for it, and I was like, oh man, it was almost going to be like a hot dog. I know it sounds stupid, but like freestyling, like skateboarding, just not skateboarding, but you're just. It was the original prototype was cool. It was just a hot dog, and it was sliding down rails.
Hmm.
It was jumping, doing flips, collecting coins, and then uh, we ended up. 1 second. Sorry, my daughter came in there. Hey, but yeah,
No
you
worries.
just flipping, collecting coins, doing all these different things, and then the publishers would talk to me, and they said, "Oh, these colors aren't right, and this isn't right,"
All
and
right. Right.
I didn't even. I thought it was cool. The publishers were looking at it, but after like they saw the prototype, uh, they wanted me to like make this uh, hyper casual game, and
Hmm.
I'm not a evil scientist enough or evil
Not yet.
psychiatrist. How about that? To come up with the stuff that they do for hyper casual to
Oh,
draw
okay.
people in.
Okay.
I was just being weird and making a game, and then but as it went, it kind of didn't turn into everything I wanted. And I always feel like I'll revisit the idea. And I'll not. But then, while I was waiting for that to publish, that's when I made that Constella prototype.
Ah, I see. I see. Wait.
So yeah,
So how did these publishers find you? They just found the game on the App Store,
yeah.
and
Well, there was a couple of them reached out to me just seeing stuff I made on Twitter, and
okay. Wow.
so like, and also Buildbox was kind of at the beginning. Well, at the beginning of when I started messing with Buildbox, which was probably about 2018 um, or so, and some of the right off the bat, some of these publishers that were looking for some hyper casual game developers were kind of like circling around Buildbox and their communities and reaching out to people. Quali was one of the publishers, and they were
Hmm.
assisting with everybody to kind of like give them advice how to create a good prototype. Really, just wanting those submissions, just like anybody would. So I ended up getting. There was a couple of Lion was one of them. A couple.
Hmm.
There was a couple, and there was a couple I tested with. We just couldn't get the, I guess, cost per install down to where it needed to be. Are you familiar with how they do that?
No. No. Tell me about that.
Um, so basically, I mean, when you are pitching to a publisher, so when you have a game, you have your prototype. Just get together 10 levels. However, you reach reach out to the publisher. With mobile hyper casual, this is how it is, or I will even say casual. But honestly, they usually turn me down if I have anything casual, like
Hmm.
it's something like cut the rope or something like that is probably too much for them because they want the wham bam, let's change skins and whatever and get you to watch your 50 ads and then you go on to the next game. But with this, so they'll basically say, hey, we'll take your game, we will, and they do advertisement with it, or they'll market it. So they'll tell me to put in like a Facebook SDK in my build, and they will keep track of it and through Facebook ads or however. So as they're pitching this to people and advertising it, it's basically they're seeing what their return on dollars is going to be. So
I see. I see.
they do a small investment. I think when I've done one, I think they said they do like a $500 investment to pitch the game, and then they're going to see how many clicks they get or how many installs they get. And I remember at the time, I think the cost per install they wanted it to be like 30 cents or 36.
Mm.
If you look it up, there is a number, and I might be way off, but I think some of mine were like hitting like uh, 40 or maybe like 60 cents on one of them. I think one of
Mm.
them was 50, but it was honestly it was on. They want to see that smash hit that like kids just want to like
Yeah.
click on. So to get there is really hard. I really don't know. I don't know of anybody yet that I know in my personal space. I mean, there are some guys that have gotten published and things like that, but nothing where they've gotten like any kind of not viral success. I mean, it doesn't have to be viral to make a lot of money. I mean, there are some guys I know that are publishing on their own, and they're doing $20,000 to $30,000 a month on revenue from
Wow.
uh, I'm guessing from doing ads in their games. But they also have a broad net of a lot of games out there, and they just keep pumping them out, which leads me to where I really don't want to be in the game dev space. Is I don't
Mm.
think I want to. I like some hyper casual games, but when I started doing game dev, this is what I started. That's
Wow.
what I was exposed to first. It was like, hey, download
Yeah.
Buildbox and make yourself a hit game like Color Switch. I'm like, okay, and I really like, um, I really like well, I like casual games. Like if you really ask me what my style was, I'm gonna say like I love like on mobile, I love playing like Cut the Rope and just simple
Mm.
like haptic destruction games. I could play those all day. A floating chisel going through, just slicing off wood. Some of those ASMR games, I do dig them and everything like that, but I really
Yeah.
can't get into making that as like my my pride and joy. If you ask me what my dream game was, I don't think it would be like a hyper casual game, but I enjoy it. But
Mm.
it's hard to enjoy like what they want from you when you try to publish, and then and like think that you're going to be super fulfilled making a game about Kanye West or whatever. I'm saying like whatever the
Yeah. Yeah.
latest
Yeah.
trend is,
Whatever's hot. Yeah.
and I like trends and stuff like that, but like uh, it just doesn't. I don't want to make 100 games a year and all be about whatever the latest fad or meme is.
Right. You'd rather make 200 each year.
Yeah,
No,
there you go.
I've got a question. The cost per install. So I know, like in the, I think like the startup space or whatever, like tech startup space, they'll be like, I think they have some metric like cost per acquisition or something, or maybe it's just like general
Right.
business metric. But I know for those, a lot of those are like social network kind of things where like people will log on and then spend time like it's kind of like a network effect. People will like log on and then their friends are on there and they like stay on the platform and see the ads and there's sort of like the
Right.
lifetime of a user could be like years, right? Like Facebook, some people just never left Facebook since they joined and continue to
Right.
use it. But games, like I would guess, like most games, especially hyper casual games, don't have like a multi-year lifetime, or is that
I
wrong? Like,
don't believe they do. I mean,
okay,
there are some games that I'll go back like that would be considered a hyper casual game. Like I mean, honestly, I can't even go back. Like Helix Jump, it's by Voodoo, and it's just
yeah, yeah,
ball bouncing. I don't know if you've seen that or played that. I mean, I don't know how
no,
evergreen that is. It's almost like when you see it. I mean, it's endless. I don't even know if they keep updating those games or anything like that, but it's fun. And when you see, it's
yeah,
more like hyper casual is you get in love with a new mechanic. It's either
Yeah.
they're in love with the
Right. Right.
mechanic
Right.
or they're in love with the theme. And the mechanic games are cool. Uh, like Bacon. Have you ever played Bacon?
No.
It's just
I'm not. I'm not.
I
I'm not a very good hyper casual gamer.
exactly. And probably even before I started, well, probably around when I first started doing games, I saw Bacon. I was like, man, I'd like to make Bacon. You know, it's like all it is basically a profile view of a somebody holding a skillet. I mean, all you see is the skillet, and when you
Uh-huh.
press the screen, the skillet goes up and down, and a piece of bacon falls onto it,
Oh,
and
I think I played this
and
actually.
you
Yeah.
flip it, and you got to flip it onto things like the Mona Lisa, or into a
Right.
toilet, or
Right.
into a glass. Honestly, I could. That's chill for me, and I could play that forever. But like other games in the hyper casual, but that really, I think that I would say that's almost like more of an indie style, and that's really what I'm going for. I'm going for these indie style casual games. I think I'm
Hmm.
going to continue going down that road rather than trying to seek out what publishers are wanting. And
Hmm.
sometimes I shoot myself in the foot because the publishers, they know some stuff. I mean, I think they have like 100 teenagers hooked up to machines in the back room, and they're just shocking them and giving them all, like dopamine and
Sounds
showing
it.
them showing them colors and because they'll come to me with palettes like these are the colors. These are colors that you know make kids
Yeah.
want to spend money. These are the lighting situations. It's like they give me all these specs, and I'm like, man, like, but when you're all done, it looks like everybody else's game. And
Hmm.
there are some things in there that I really should apply myself to. Like I'm bad with color, and when I have a game,
Hmm.
it'll be all dark and I'll have like weird effects because I just like I like trippy stuff. Like probably more like I like the Tim Burton-y stuff, or even just throw in like the whole idea of Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory, and
Hmm.
I love all that kind of just bizarre, not even bizarre, just coming up with new ideas or new mechanics, coming up with something that is like just
Yeah.
trippy. And like, I want somebody to say, man, this is freaking trippy. I don't even care if they play it for, a week and put it away. I mean, I want them just, it's like music, you write the
Hmm.
music and then, you go around and say, hey, you want to listen to my song? You want to listen to my song? And what they're really doing is listening to what you're about or,
Hmm.
and, it's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
I'm giving them my song, and then how long are they going to listen to my song? And then the fact of when I have somebody going, man, I played beans, and I played all the way up to level 170. I'm like, dude,
Wow.
that's like me saying, hey, here's my CD or whatever, and then say
Right.
I
Right.
listened to
I
it
read your
15
biography.
times
Yeah.
exactly, and I'm like, wow, it's
Yeah.
like and like they're looking at me like, oh, this one level, and I'm thinking like, I can barely remember that, and they're talking about it, so it's cool. It's like, but then
Wow.
there's other people. I'll say, hey, can you check this out? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then as soon as they think the game's over, there, okay, here you go, and they give it back. I'm like, that person's just not into it, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I get. I just want somebody kind of like poke into my head, and I see if we connect. And then if you really enjoy it, then you can come back for more, and we can connect some
Yeah.
more, and I can throw out some things that seem familiar to your weird brain, and we can be friends.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think you're striking this thing I've also sort of found over the years. Like, there's sort of like just in general starting a business or making anything. It's like if you use your own taste as like to navigate the space or like to decide what you want to make, then like you just kind of know intrinsically whether it's good or not because it's like
Right,
you're using your own taste. Whereas if you're trying to make a product for somebody else or a game for somebody else, you don't really know. Then like you have to sort of like do research and guess and have like
right,
maybe spend more time like asking people for their opinion. But if you're just like making it for something that you like, you're like, oh, I really like this aspect. Like if you like trippy graphics and like whatever weird mechanics, then like you'll find people who like trippy graphics and weird mechanics. Just like um, it's just like a coordination point where you just like I don't know, like you just find people
no,
like that
I
too.
get. There's a lot of people. I can't ever have people play. Like one of the cool things about Buildbox is, as soon as I'm done with like I can just take my file, and as soon as I think, hey, I'm ready to try this out on the phone, I just hit a button, and it's literally on my phone in like 10 seconds. and then I can
Right.
hand it to somebody, and they can
Right.
try
Right.
all the
Right.
haptics and everything.
Playtesting.
But
Yeah.
it's I equate it to like when I did stand up comedy for a little bit, and
Mm.
I would sit there and write a joke, and the joke was good, but it's kind of like going up to somebody and say, "Hey, okay, so I'm thinking about doing a joke that's like this, and then I say this." Now that from a comedian's perspective, if somebody's a hardcore comedian, might say, "Oh, but you could say this," or "Oh, that's a
Mm.
great
Mm.
premise." Oh, and then, but the thing is, when showing somebody a prototype or having them test something or play test, it's like, "Hey, not totally done," and all they're thinking is, "I just want to see a game." And then like
Mm.
somebody in comedy is like, "I just wanted to hear a joke. I didn't want to hear how the structure
Yeah.
joke and how you're gonna build it up and how you're gonna do all this." Um, but it's that's where I always have a hard time because I always come up with these real weird trippy things. I give them to somebody, and then they're like, okay, now what? I'm like, didn't that blow you away? And I need to hang out with game nerds more often. I've never met another game dev in the flesh, so
Right.
once I do,
No, I totally know what you mean.
there's a certain amount of weirdness that like that you could
Yeah.
connect with, and like because you're going to look at it and see how do you do that? What is it? It's just like a magician.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
did magic too, and that was the thing. When I would do magic for people, it was different than when I did magic for magicians. And when I did magic for magicians, they would allow themselves to be amazed, but then they're also breaking it all down, just like you would break down the
Right.
mechanic. Like, how
Right.
do you do that? Is he using raycasting? Is he
Right.
using this? And and
Right.
I don't know how I veered off on that, but just letting people see the stuff. Um, I do like that people can test, but I wish there was a better way for me, like broadcast, and there would just be like 100 nerds on the line that were ready to just view. I kind of use Twitter as that, like, hey, I made this weird thing today, and it's like
Right.
I'm not much of a devlogger, but I really, if I was more like you, I bet I'd be a devlogger. Because
Oh.
man, you I
Well, I was gonna say actually, like, I have the same feeling because like most of my followers on Twitter, all five of them or whatever, are like not game developers. They're all like just rando
dude,
people, and
that's
so
the
like
best ever.
whenever I post, I know, but when I post like yeah, like devlog kind of stuff, people are like, oh,
Yeah, no,
okay, like
yeah,
cool, you made a thing that moves. Like I don't like I my friend also made a game that he sold 1,000 copies. Like, what is this like mechanic that you made? I don't like get it. Like, why is this important? They don't. Yeah, they don't have a sense of like how difficult it
right.
is or like why it's interesting, unique, or like.
That's why I don't
And I mean, yeah,
I don't post on my
but
Facebook
that's
anymore
fine though.
for the same reason. It's like because everybody's like, because I'm like, hey, this is something I'm really passionate about. This is what I'm doing. Maybe you guys, since you play games all the time, maybe you can play it. And then
Right.
everybody's like, what the hell's going on? What are you, a game designer now? I thought you were my uncle. It's like it's like so
Oh, very specific.
disconnected. So Twitter, I throw it out there, and like just like you. I mean, I met you through Twitter, right? That's where
Mm,
and uh,
yeah.
with all that, I mean, I really dig the people that are not game devs that still like kind of get into it because they're kind of
Right.
poking their
Right.
head
Right.
in. Usually, it's the artists and the writers and
Mm.
stuff like that. Like, I dig all those people that I get. I keep saying dig. It's making me sound like.
No, that's fine.
Am I doing all right with that? I dig it.
I dig your digging.
Hey, good.
It's good.
But yeah, and I, I I don't even know where we're going with that. I keep losing it because I'm all over. I'm
That's
excited.
fine.
I'm excited to be here, Ben. Thank you very much for even choosing to talk to me about my experience, and we can talk about whatever the hell you
Well,
want.
yeah, I can't remember if I asked you. Did you have anything you wanted to show today?
Uh, I can I can just show you Buildbox and what
Yeah,
I mess
yeah.
with.
I'm actually if I'd be especially interested if you have the screen share because like last time you were showing me on your phone, it was hard to follow.
Yeah, it's
But
you know what the now
this could be your devlog.
hey, it could be my devlog. Now, where are we screen sharing out of? Are we turning?
Uh, Riverside has a share with a little monitor icon on the bottom
Okay,
on the computer.
okay. See, now this
A
is
whole new
this
world.
is where you're like, Shawn, what's going on, man? You gave me all kinds of heads up. You've been more than patient
You
with.
can call your kids over for technical support.
Oh, they don't
And
know Jack. My kids, you know what? I'll tell you what is the biggest lie there ever was is when people are like, "Oh man, I got my own built-in game testers. I got my kids." Boo hiss on that. You really think that like it's usually the only advice I usually get from like from my younger kids is, "Are you gonna have skins? Can we
oh
buy
wow,
things through the game?" They always want to buy things through the
uh,
game and do things like it,
right, right,
which makes me laugh. But because it's like that's like what you want to hear. Like, can I buy things in this game? But my kids are immediately wanting to spend their money to buy things in the game. Yeah, like that's what
yeah.
it's that new mentality. Which I'll get into this part of with. I'm gonna I'm gonna knock myself out doing this. Um, with the generation of gaming and what I'm into, and I can actually. Or okay, real quick. I know were you wanting to do the screen
Go
sharing
for it,
near the end of it, or were you?
or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, because I can talk about like we can talk about beginning. I know we're probably getting a
Uh,
little long
I think
here.
it'd be. It's sort of like you can watch streamers play games. I think it'd actually be more fun if you just continue talking with the game up,
I can
even if
do
you
that.
want to talk about something
Now
else.
I'm curious how
Yeah.
I'm supposed to. Now, if I go to my Riverside login here, I should be able to on my computer. I should be able to share with the
I
session,
hope
right?
so. I think you'll be like a third. You'll be like a third person in the.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the first time I've actually recorded something in Riverside, so
All right.
we'll see.
All right. And
But
then I'll do what you suggested and make sure I have OBS.
my crazy idea, sharing a screen.
Man, you are just wild as hell.
I'm
Now
out there, yeah.
I gotta go. Um, Watch me do this. Okay, so man, this looks great. Okay, so I got an ultra wide screen here, which
Oh,
is
yeah. Well, I mean,
gonna
you don't have to
drive you
make that
nuts.
smaller. You can just make the just zoom in
Yeah,
on
I can.
the
You
mind map.
just okay. Here's what we'll do.
Okay.
So here's a general idea of the layout. So on
Hmm.
the left, you have your assets, and then we go to our scene right
Hmm.
here in the middle, and then all of our what they call the outliner. And then as you either select on objects here, you can get position data, things like that. I don't know if you see that or not, but
Yeah, I can
I
see
had a
it.
really weird idea with this cat. Man, I just would just do a scene view, reset view here. Okay, there's a. So let's go into like here's a cube.
Okay.
Now this is kind of crude for me. Now my coding buddies would probably puke if they saw this.
Okay.
Um, so it's basically this is an object that I have in my game where it is just basically a white box, and once you collide with it, however it collides, you will actually get it to spawn into a set of 8 cubes. So
Oh, that's
basically,
the
it quarters itself
explosion.
down, and really simple. And there's actually a node. So I'll explain this real quick.
Hmm.
So when we go inside these objects in my field, every object uh, is basically over here. Uh, Let me think here. So objects in my scene, just like in Unity or whatever, they're just basically a object that's going to hold all of your scripts, and these are my scripts. They call them nodes
Hmm.
in Buildbox. They're based on JavaScript, so not all of them are editable. Some nodes are 3D objects, like this one is,
Hmm.
um, and I can basically just select a 3D object, put it in here. So when the idea here is the object starts. If it's in the scene, then this will start. This defines if it's kinematic, if it's dynamic, if it's got no physics whatsoever. and then I can put in my models and shapes. So right here I have two models, just two cubes. Um, One is black and one is white. Actually,
I see.
and I inverted one. I inverted one and made it black, so you can't
Ah,
see the front of it. And it's just as
classic
simple because I don't have
outline.
shaders
Yeah,
and things like that and Unity. So basically, that's what you get. The object starts and it puts out. It's got the start node basically has all the physical data. This is actually the size of the object. Right now, this
mm,
is one by one by one. There's no rotation. It's got, but it also includes friction properties, bounce, mass, and then I can do things like limit the rotation factor and position factors. So if I want the object to move all over, but I don't want it to move in the y direction, I can actually
got
turn
it.
off the y direction at y-axis, and and I can also say what objects will affect this. So if I have, like in this game, I have a bowling ball or whatever that shoots, and I don't want it to affect anything else other than I want this to only basically explode when it's hit with this ball. I say it is affected by the bowling ball, but I have a list of all my other assets that are in here.
Mm,
So quickly it starts. Um, this cube, I don't usually use this, but the start node also has it used to not have this in the older versions of Buildbox, but there's a collide right here. So basically, it has its own what you would call a hitbox, or what I call it is an if collide. So basically, it gives a physical shape to the collision.
right.
And over here, my attributes, my collision shape is a cube, just like the object is.
Mm,
I can import other meshes and have my if I want, or I can say I want this to actually have a sphere.
right.
So the flow goes start showing off its 3D objects, and then in that start is a collision that says if you collide with bowling ball, then output here, and then whatever comes. So what I do is immediately I defeat the object, which basically renders it useless on the screen. It'll take away the 3D models of it, but then it allows you to run commands after that.
I see.
So
I
all
see.
I'm doing is over here, it's basically dead. I
So it's not
immediately, as soon
visually
as it
present,
gets tapped,
but it's
exactly, yeah, so
okay.
it goes away. Um, and then over here, I'm just spawning 8 objects, and all they are is another object. You're gonna laugh. I mean, this is how I do it. It's
Is it a cube?
this is small cube,
Yeah.
and I'm and what this small cube I'll show you here. Basically, I'm spawning like a grid of 8 objects, and only thing different is my position offset for where I spawn it.
Got it.
So I'm spawning it, half this way, half that way, up, down, left, right. So I'm just spawning them in place to drop like they just came out of a cube.
Mm,
And then the only other uh, thing that happens after this is I have a couple sounds, uh, which just some silly little bass sounds. Just I put these in there for prototyping reasons, and then uh, I have another sound that I generate somewhere else. And that's where you also have signal send and signal receive nodes, which are kind of neat. Like so, if something happens here, and
mm,
I want to send just a signal, so if I want to say, hey, I want to trigger a sound that's in another node or another object, I can put a send here and a receive elsewhere.
okay.
To a programmer, they probably freak out on this
No,
kind of stuff. But I'm
that's
not really. I'm
events.
not
Yeah.
really. It's the way it's done. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's the way
mean,
it's
but
done.
I'm learning better practices. I was really bad with my practices before. I mean, I had some real junky junk going on, where I'd look at this and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, how'd this thing even run?" Just like a coder would look at his code from early games and say, "Oh, I mean, you get better with visual scripting. You see how to reuse some loops a little bit more rather than just doing one-offs like this spawn setup. There is a node that I have that I can actually set a height and width and how many objects I want in the vertical, horizontal. Basically, I can basically just spawn an array or a grid of nodes. or of objects, which would be better, but I didn't have it, and I just drew this up real quick.
No, it works
But
right.
as far as
Works
I
well.
see it, I just look at everything as a designer. So just the start happens, I'll go through the start, showing the nodes. As soon as it's hit by the bowling ball, then we go defeat and defeat. After that, it just triggers a couple sounds and spawns these objects right here. Which, if I click on that, I know everything looks confusing because everything's a cube. But I'm so used to working with cubes. I really do work with a lot with cubes, and people laugh at me, like because like they're always like, "That's what you don't know what to do." But I really like just I don't know making it
I mean,
visually
it's a nice
cool.
style choice. Yeah,
Uh,
cubes are good. Everyone
it's
loves
it's
cubes.
it's weird, and I so really all that happens in this is once it generates those cubes, they're actually dynamic objects that I'm spawning 8 of these cubes.
Hmm.
I look, I drag and I jump, and and I have some random values for direction that they'll go.
Right.
Here's where I get weird. So I did not get weird, but basically I have a timer in here that is firing off every 0.05 seconds, and it when it times out, it's setting a random color. So
Oh,
these
okay.
blocks that it's spawning every 0.05 seconds, it's going to spawn. It's going to randomize the color. I don't think it blows up my performance. I've tested this 100 times. I always think it's going to mess something up. I swear, You guys are used to Unity and things like that, but I'm kind of walking a razor's edge with everything I do. If you ever notice, I always have a remove. It's kind of garbage collecting
Yeah,
for
yeah.
these objects to come out. So it comes out. It's got a delay of 5 seconds, um, and then I have a 1 second color animation that fades it out to transparent, and then I remove it. So I
Right.
don't keep this physical object on my screen.
Otherwise,
So
just
if
have
you
like
want to see
thousands
what
of
it look
objects just like falling down into like the
exactly, and
void.
I can't handle thousands. I can barely handle like 100 objects. I usually have frames per second. I hope my oh sweet. Now, do you see that in good
Yeah,
view
yeah,
on your screen, or do
yeah. I
I
do.
need to?
Nope,
I'll
it's good.
actually in my okay. So give you an idea here. This is just a prototype scene, and so I this is a weird one. I had an idea to shoot a bowling ball with a junkyard gun, so I built this gun and everything, and right inside
That's
of
awesome.
Buildbox. So it's basically you click once to aim. You click, you aim with first, second click, and then it shoots on the third. So that what you see in the middle is that little voxely looking pin is made up of the big cube assets that I was just messing with over here.
Hmm.
So this is made of the big cubes. When I hit those, each one of those big cubes is going to break off into 8 smaller cubes that are multicolored. If I can make the shot. So this is what you're seeing. Oh, I better hook it in there.
Oh yeah, the
So
hooking was really
those
cool.
cubes coming out.
I saw that.
Huh?
The hooking is really cool. As you can sort of,
Yeah,
it's sort of
the
like,
hooking is something.
yeah, like when you roll a bowling ball, you're
Well,
always hoping you can like sort of like get it to go.
exactly. I was wanting to like give the bowl kinetics like almost like Jedi-ish. I'm like,
That's
I
cool.
actually thought about putting a big junkyard magnet on the left and right, and say you were shooting like a
Oh,
iron ball, and you turn them on. I don't know if I'm that cool. This you just tap on each side. I just added a feature. If I can nail it, I might be able to. Where it goes into well, there's a sun up in the sky, and if you get it to go
Easter
up
egg.
into the sun's keister, he shoots it back at you. It was
Wow.
definitely, but we won't get too into this. But yeah, I won't be. I curved it the wrong way. But as you can see, like those objects blowing up, and then I got some other explosions and things like that happening. I mean, that's just viewing the engine. The engine itself, it's pretty cool. Actually, I'll give you a real quick. Um, you ever get to that point where you don't know if you should save or not? You're like, did I save, or have I been messing
I
around in this
always
thing so
save.
much that
I just yeah.
yeah,
You can
how
never
about if
save
I save as?
too much.
Don't laugh at all my names. Look, I'm gonna name that one Orange Poo Poo at the end.
All right.
If somebody looks at all my names of my files, because it'll be like suck one, suck two, suck less, suck fix. Like I do all these
Wow.
names because I'm like
You
going
got a
through, and
system.
Buildbox is different. Like I honestly don't know how people collaborate in others. I've not gotten far enough into like I'm just to be honest. Like I haven't got so far into game development that I've ever had to collaborate with anybody or work
Hmm.
multiple people on on one file. Buildbox does not allow for that. So everything I do is like save often, save incrementally, and I just keep going, going, going. But like Buildbox, what they really, I'm not going to make this no commercial for Buildbox, but I will say for people that are like me, I'm 44. I started this when I was like 41, 40, and I like to design things. I'm an inventor. I've like I can invent products. I use a 3D modeler. I use 3D printers. I do stuff. I just make it happen. I'm not a professional at it. I am a professional. I have a company where I design products and create things, but it's because I'm I've got my way in there. It wasn't because I went to college for it and somebody was like, "Oh, show us your credentials." I did IT for like 15 years of my life
Hmm.
until I was like uh, 30, and then I switched gears because I was building ukuleles. I was doing all these engineering things like
Whoa.
working with wood, and I was curious about everything. So I was like, I started this job doing building things, and then here's what I'm getting to. 40 years old, I look at it. I see game dev as something that I can combine everything that I love. I love music. I love comedy. I love art. I love uh, I love digital art. I love retro games. I love pixel art, fine art, death metal, dubstep, writing music. Love building ukuleles. I like making my own tools and like different inventions. So in game dev, I can do it all. I can create. I have a whole freaking world that I can create anything and everything I want. And I see people all the time complaining like, "Oh, I need a different game engine," and I always heard a poor artist blames his brushes.
Hmm.
I've handed my guitar over to somebody, and I would have a very crappy guitar being young, and I'm like, "Oh, this sucks so bad." And then somebody like, "Let me see that," and they're like,
Right. Right. Right.
licking on it, doing whatever. I'm like, "What the hell?" And it's when I realized a poor artist blames their brushes. It's not that; it's your ability to work with that tool. And so I figured out Buildbox to the point where I really do know the ins and outs. I know a lot about the software, more than I probably should, but there's so many unknowns still. And it's like still like even publishing a game like, on mobile and things like that. It's tough for me sometimes because, it's like I'm going over into Android Studio and all that stuff. And when you're a designer and you do all these things, like that is not second nature to you. Like it took me forever to see what they were even doing in Android Studio. Like, what is this gibberish? I couldn't understand anything. And then I get lost in the world. Now I've like been hardened by, I am learning more about coding and programming. And I knew nothing at all. No concepts, nothing. I did not, honestly, when we did this, when you said you were wanting to do this uh, podcast, this interview, I was
Hmm.
like, man, I'd like to inspire people because I was a very bad student. I got horrible grades in math. I didn't do any of that stuff. But then I thought when I was younger, I was very into computers. I was like, playing Wolfenstein and all these things, getting on. I was hacking some stuff and putting together devices for hacking payphones. I was like all over the place with just loving technology, but I was not a great student. I didn't care about math. I had friends though that were very smart. They were all top of the class, and two of them were very involved in computers. I had a friend, even in like '95, was a diehard Commodore 64 person. Diehard, had
Wow.
a modem, had everything you were not supposed to have. Like, I mean, I think at that time, I don't know. I mean, he's carried around a lunchbox Commodore. Was
Wow.
not fashionable. I was not the year. Like, I mean, there was like 386s and 486s were out. Commodore, nobody had messed with them, and like still for like 8, 10 years. And so that was my buddy, and he taught me so much nerdy stuff. and I learned about like chip tunes and this and that, all these different things. And then I had another friend, he would stay at my house, spend the night, and he was good at programming. And I remember I was like, man, I was really into Amiga demos, the Amiga demo scene, which was like I had an Amiga 600, and I would play these demos from Europe that blow my mind with all these graphics and 3D environments,
Mm-hmm.
and the music was so great. And I had my friend, I'm like, man, can you just like code me a Starfield simulation, like dots, and all night long, man, he's on basic, like just
Wow.
typing it out. I downloaded like a legal version of QBasic, I think it was, because it had an EXE compiler. And I remember he like all night long was like figuring it out. And here he is, man, like just dots. I'm asleep on the couch, and he's just finally done. And like
Dots.
I see
Yeah.
dots going across the screen. I thought we were on our way.
Wow.
I wanted to. But anyway, those were my friends I hung out with. But I didn't understand. Like I didn't even take good algebra. I was like math 9 was what I took. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It wasn't like algebra. And then when I got the algebra, it was pre-algebra. And then I was goofing off and drawing on my desk so much that I didn't figure anything out. So when it came to me being having an interest in making games for all my life and wanting to get involved, I always counted myself out because like that's for those guys, that's for those guys,
Mm-hmm.
that's for those guys that can program, and that no, it's not. It doesn't mean that that is not a great skill to have, but and you will get further and you will know more. Like the more I know about different algorithms and concepts, and like the A star algorithms and things like that. When I start learning that stuff and understanding it, it makes even my visual scripting so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to tell anybody if you're wanting to do games or anything like that, you can. Like anybody can do anything they want as far as like with the tools. It's just like saying that, and I see a lot of people frown on no code, but I mean, it, I guess Adobe Photoshop is no paint, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's that's the only thing. It's like it's they're just tools, and it's tools to get an idea. Whatever's in your freaking head, can you get it out? And these people are making more and more amazing tools, and they're all kind of going to the same thing with Unity and their visual scripting. And I'll see so many people poop on it and just say, "Don't do that." I would definitely say don't do that at the beginning of it when it was very difficult and it was clunky. But I'm telling you what, Unity with visual scripting and people saying that it'll make your application slower compared to what I'm doing and the scope of games that I'm making, I could probably make the most tangled up mess, and
Yeah.
Unity would probably still
Totally.
rock it. And but
Yeah, you
I
spoke to this
understand where
before,
people are
right?
coming from,
Like the
huh?
you said this before, like you were saying like I know I try to like remove garbage collect my like the particle boxes I create and the explosions. And
Exactly.
I was just saying like my experience from programming games is actually like game software is just and computers are just so good that it's like you think like
It
oh this is
right.
gonna be the thing that like slows down the game and it's like it never is. The thing that slows down the game is like something you
What's
never expect.
exactly what slows it down? Like every game engine probably has a hiccup or whatever. Sometimes with Buildbox, I think their sound engine sometimes gets a little wonky. I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, it's not wonky, but when I push it too far and I spawn too many sounds or I create too many things at one time, I mean, it cuts up. And but when I go back and I clean things up and I think things instead of throwing like fire off 100 coin sounds at once or something stupid like that, um, I would never do that. But I'm just saying, like, I'll think a little bit more about my sound design.
Gotta dream big,
Maybe do a little bit, some work in Audacity to clean it up or be creative.
right?
It's not really that big of a problem. But I'm saying when I reach a wall like that, or when I think it's like because of messy coding, it was just or because of a bad engine or limited abilities, it's really you're just overlooking something. Or these systems all work a little differently. And when I
Hmm.
use Buildbox, I'll throw a logger onto a node. So when it fires off, it basically is just a log console, and I'm learning to use that a lot better
Hmm.
as far as like in more creative ways. Just like there's a Unity video about creative ways to use the logging console to debug and find out where your issues come from. There's in Buildbox, it's the same thing. It's just your style is going to be a little bit different. You know, I have a debug screen when I actually, which is kind of cool. When I look at my preview, you know, I can just hit debug, and everything is. I can see all my collision zones and things like that,
Right,
and then
right.
I can see the stuff that didn't go away. I can see stuff that, uh, you know, I love it when I like I shot that cannon in that game a couple days ago when I was playing it, and I shot it, and I had just a slight rotation on it, the cannon. I mean, really slight, and shot it, and then I'm sitting there working, and then about 5 minutes later, I still got my preview up. I see the cannonballs like fly by, like it went on like a huge orbit. I don't even know where it went, but
It's
I
like
was like,
still in the
"Whoa, that
game.
thing's still out there."
Wow.
I'm like, "Thank God I ran it." You know, I would never see it, but I am learning as
Your
far as
actions
like
have
best
consequences.
practices.
Very, very deep
Yeah,
lesson they
exactly.
teach you.
There is. I mean, what I do now, and I'll run a game when I'm done with a game. I'll run it in preview, and
Hmm.
I'll leave it run up on my computer for a couple of days if I can.
Oh,
I
nice,
swear, I'll
nice.
let it just to know if it. I mean, there's some stuff I'll
Memory
have
leak
that
or
can't
something,
run.
yeah.
You know, I was like, yeah, when I first started doing this, I remember I was like, oh man, 10 minutes into the game and I'm crashing. It was just because it was sloppy. Things were just laid out there. Things spawned like crazy when I wasn't looking, or you know, or an object was dynamic and just fell, and then it spawned 10,000 times, and I had no idea. You know, it's just little things that you get. I honestly am speaking from this mindset because I have people that contact me all the time, and they're always like curious about making games, and
Hmm.
I'm like, man, I want to tell them like I don't even know either, but I'm feeling like I do know.
I mean,
It's
yeah, you do
just
know.
like I know my way. I know how to come at it
Yeah.
from this angle. I'm not saying like this is my own unique process. I'm just saying like doing it without you know the coding background and having to worry about all that stuff. And really, what it is you worry about it from a design. What effect do you
Hmm.
want to get? And I love working on the juice part and the game design and like coming up with the mechanics. Um, I could really care less about the coding, and I know that you guys, especially, I more and more I'll listen to podcasts. I'll hear these guys like, oh, you know, I would never. I have to write my own system, or I can't.
Hmm.
They're always wanting to make their own engines and things like that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that kind of tenacity for it. But like, I'm like, I got no time. I want to make a game, you know. And it's
Right, right,
that
right.
it's just different viewpoints. We're both wanting the same thing, just we both want to approach it differently. We both want to. I want to show off my the idea with the objects that I'm going to show you and the music. And then somebody wants to say, "Hey, I want to show you how tight I made this programming, you know, and how good this system is. Beautiful as well." Sorry, that's I don't know if any of this is good,
It's
or
all
am I?
good,
I'm
Sean.
just hey.
It's
Well,
all good.
I will show you this. This is like this looks like a childlike program here, but like I said, Buildbox they you know they push they have like a template section. These are templates, and as you can see, they're mostly like hyper casual games.
Right.
And these are free things you've down. They're already included, like an endless runner. You know, run left, run right. You just open it, and then it's ready to go. And basically, you can just study it, and then. But like I said, they're all kind of geared towards the hyper casual.
Do you have
But
a
this is
template that
like
you tend to use for Buildbox?
I'm. Here's the thing. I don't use any of the built-in things that Buildbox uses. I don't know if I've ever at the very beginning, like this is the endless runner, right? And it's like you open it up. I'll look at these. What I will do, like this, I'll go into these and I'll nab some assets, like because like I know
Uh huh.
they're basically open. Uh, like like this game looks, you know, I don't really understand it. This, well, I just clicked off of it and blew everything up, but
Yeah.
and then I died. But yeah, I mean, it's just basically they give you these templates. I think I don't know. They're not my cup of tea,
Uh-huh.
but there are some that I'll look in every once in a while. And let me think here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you should be making templates. You probably know
They,
things far better than the people who develop.
that is probably where my wheelhouse would be as far as make. I would love to make these like, hey, let's go gaga over the mechanic, but then the hard part is creating the gameplay.
Hmm.
To create a whole there's more to
Yeah. What do
it.
you?
That's the thing that worries me with hyper casuals. It's Are you hearing my notifications at all?
No.
Because I'm
What do
sounding like one of
you?
those old.
That's all right. How do you
My
usually
kids always
start?
make fun
Like,
of the old people on TikTok that like record TikTok videos, and you hear their notifications going. They're like, "Dad, look at
right.
this old guy," and I'm like, "That's me, brother.
That's
I'm disconnected." But here I'll give you a quick instance here, real quick.
okay.
They have this platformer prototype right here. It's set up as this one's set up as a 2D world, so you can enter 2D worlds or three. This is the opening mind map. So this start is actually a start of the whole game, right?
The whole game. Okay.
This is a UI. What it's doing is it's going from there, and this is where you set up the UI, and that's a UI button, and its function is default, which means it's just going to output right here on the outside, and it's going to go
Hmm.
right into the 2D world. And this is actually set up as 2D, and I couldn't tell you squat about this, but this is a platformer template that they put in here. Now they're like Unity gives you the I don't know how good their like FPS components are and stuff that they give you. This is like some run your basic. If you're going to make a mobile platform game, this is
Right.
really what you
Right.
need.
This is
It's
like the
just
like
left, right, and you jump
fingers.
and exactly. So they give you the basic objects, and you just go from there. But beyond that, I mean, what tends to happen is there's a bunch of guys that get sold on the dream of making a hyper casual game. They go in here, they'll grab these templates, and they make minor changes, and then they're up on the App Store. Then there's some guys that get really creative, but I think it's the problem is they kind of sell people everybody the indie game dev's dream. It's like you all you got to do is just say I got a studio, and you have a studio, right?
Yeah.
But some of these guys what I realized, you don't have to act out on it. You don't have to publish everything, or itch and all that stuff is great. I just never had a platform that I feel like I could just like export to like really easy. I can make exes, I can export for Steam and stuff like that, but I
Hmm.
started messing with the mobile so much that I never kind of went over to that. And I thought about
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
some like real quick little games like for Steam, but you know,
I've got a question for you.
go for it, buddy.
Like, yeah, like, what do you have like a long term idea of like where you want to be for game development? I know you just recently got into learning Unity. Like, is there something?
Yeah.
Is there something you feel like you
So,
can't do with Buildbox that you want to do with Unity?
well, VR. I would like
Oh.
to work with some VR concepts. The other thing is, I like the idea of like even exporting for web and things like that. Just make something small. You know, I'd like to do more commercial projects. Like while I'm doing, like, I mean, really, I'm farting around, building my skills, putting out some like projects that people can test and play, and they're really just a test for me. And since I
Hmm.
can export to mobile and like they're playable and they're good and or they're fun or I enjoy them, I've been doing them. But I would like to do like I'd like to do a little more graphic intense stuff. I feel like even though I can do something. I mean, as you see this game wizard and it's showing I guess it's cool. You got the 3D style, but it's definitely how like when you see a game engine, sometimes you can say that's made in this game engine, and you kind of see,
Yeah.
which is totally
Unreal Engine has
it,
that for sure.
it does, but and that it almost has it like, and I sometimes and it's sometimes it's hard to break that stereotype of your engine because
Right.
you open it up, you have all the same tools, the default palettes, unless you want to go in and make your own palette. So everybody ends up kind of similar looking stuff, similar lighting settings, things like that. I really love the idea of like shaders and things like that and Unity.
Hmm.
Also, just like when have ideas like, oh, you know what? I'd like to just show the wireframe of this model. I'd like to be able to do stuff like that. I can't do things like that. So I know that they're always working on Buildbox. Really, I'm using Buildbox kind of beyond what it's made for. It was made for doing like color switch and things like that, and it's like amazing that it's doing such. It can do 3D the way it does, um, but sometimes I mean, honestly, every time I try to think like, oh well, I need to move to Unity because I was working on this last prototype, thinking I'll just do the prototype real quick, and then when I really want to get crazy, like hooking the ball and do this and do that, I'll just go to Unity and really start fleshing this out.
Right.
And then I end up doing everything like I think it might have took me like a total of like 8 hours to make what I made. Well, with that, so right now I have the mechanic that's a base of a game. That whole game was like it's going to be like junkyard bowling or whatever, unless I change the theme or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I want I already got a scene set up. It's working now. I just gotta come up with I'm just gonna do frames or whatever. It is gonna be more of a casual style. So instead of like 3 stars, you get like a gutter ball, a spare, or a strike. You know what I mean, for each level.
Oh, nice,
Just trying
nice,
to mix
nice.
it up.
Yeah.
But I would love to see something like that game done in VR. Where you're sitting in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cockpit and boom, boom, you're shooting this giant object across the canyon. I like those kind of things. I really get into like the juice and the feel of games. And that's
Yeah.
really where Unity shines. And me, I'm always like, I just find new ways to like explode cubes, and find
Right,
and
right.
make them sparkle
Well,
different ways. But
to what you're talking about, I actually, my friend invited me to like a VR chat, which is like a VR game, VR chat world.
right,
And for VR chat worlds, you basically, there's like an extension or plugin for Unity where you can just basically create a common space for people to like warp into and
okay,
chat in 3D space.
like big
And so
screen,
someone had actually, like what?
big what is it? Big screen, is that one of the apps that you go in for a meeting
Oh,
place
I'm not
and
sure.
VR? Okay, go
I
ahead.
don't know
Sorry.
that one. But that's all right. Anyway, and this one, it was like a lawn. It was kind of like a lawn. They call that the little like hammer game with the little gates. The ball's going through the
Oh,
gates. Badminton, not badminton.
cricket. Is that cricket?
Cricket or
No,
no,
no. Wait,
no
wait.
people.
Or croquet. Wait. What am I? What
Croquet. I was
is
just saying, cricket fans are gonna
croquet?
hate us
Cricket.
for suggesting that that's
It's
cricket.
that was for all
Anyway,
the yeah. That was for those other
sorry, it wasn't
games.
croquet. It was actually not croquet. It was a tower defense game. There was a
Okay.
common tower defense game. You can just like warp into this world with your friends, chat while you all sort of play this like tower defense game together. And there's just like you talking about the junkyard bowling just sort of reminded me of that. That it's like there's actually like a really special element of like people casually socially playing a game together in a 3D space. I think that like
Right.
hasn't been explored very much.
I would love to. That's where I really like. That's when I'm like, man, I'd like to work on a team with some people and like talk about some ideas, contribute some things, and just build some far out projects. VR is so, especially with the indie stuff on VR. It's like there's so much, and it's like Gorilla Tag and all the stuff that came out, and
Right, right.
just really great games. And I'm thinking like when I realized, I swear, when I realized you could do VR with Unity, I was like, holy crap! So I and when I looked at it, I thought, okay, it's gonna be totally unreachable. And then I see these people like doing visual scripting with VR, and I'm like, well, it's probably limited. And I look, and it's like, here's how to do visual scripting, multiplayer VR, da, 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 everything. It's
Wow.
there's no reason, there's no excuse not to like at least jump into it, even if you don't have the programming skills. If that's what you want, if that's a product you want to do, start chipping away and doing it. So that's
Right.
eventually that's probably where I'm going to be. We'll see. But
Cool.
I just looking. I look forward to using more tools. I think I'm kind of like squeezing this sponge out a little bit, like as far as with my game engine, and like sometimes it's like I have some difficulties with it. You know, when I make an object in Blender and I'm exporting and things like, it's kind of hard for me to get. I mean, you can get it unwrapping objects and trying to create PNG textures and things like that. I hate doing all those steps that I
Yeah.
had to do, and rather than just dragging them in, and there's so much more of. It's probably where my attraction to Unity comes to is like the amount of assets and tools. And I see so many like when I'm like, man, I want to make a word game, and I'm like, but I'm gonna have to make a dictionary on my own, and I'm gonna have to do it because those things aren't really done.
Uh,
I don't have an on-screen keyboard, so I'm starting to get limited on my tools. But doesn't it's not gonna limit my creativity on it. So I'm
right.
gonna keep coming out with some creative
No, I
concepts
feel
until
like
I move over.
on the contrary, I feel like you've like really demonstrated that like constraints are actually like I don't know, spurn or like kind of like make you more creative or like that's what I've heard from a lot of people over the years is like constraints are like a mechanism or like a benefit or like a structure for create for being
Yeah,
creative, like having a
that's
having a
all. That's
specific
all.
yeah.
That's all design is I think was the definitions like working with constraints, which
Mm-hmm.
is weird, and you just work around it and you make something amazing with what you got. I mean, there's people out there making guitars with hubcaps and fishing line, and
Right.
they do some weird stuff and they make it
Right.
happen.
Right.
They work with the constraints that they have, and if you can't make a game with a powerful tool, I mean, and make it successful, then or make it work, then you don't want to make a game because there's so many free tools. There's so many. Uh, uh, I mean, there's even when build. I will say this: Buildbox. I'm not even poo pooing on them. I love Buildbox. Since I started messing with it, I've gotten to know all the people that work there. The support.
Wow.
Some of the main, I guess I don't know, SEO or SEO CEO, um,
Right.
or whoever's. They always have people on the board and overseeing projects and everything. I mean, they'll even reach out to me sometimes and ask me things about the product because I use it so much. I've poked on it so much and I've blown it up more than anybody I think else has. And
Wow.
I walk myself through the problems, and I mean, they've had hiccups, but they've always been really supportive, and they've been cool with me. They, they got me a little Buildbox Superstars group. Makes me feel special. It does because
A
they
what?
ask
A
for
superstar?
well, let's see. They have like in Twitter, they just have a group of like some of the developers that are actually making things or
Oh,
content creators. So,
I see.
and
I see.
they kind of like give attaboys here and there. It's uh, everybody's kind of growing up and like starting to really make stuff, and uh, so they're trying to cast a little more light on some of the creators, and then they featured one of my games one time, so it was kind of neat opening up the software and
Oh, nice.
seeing my game inside the engine, being advertised. I was like, hey, that's cool. Um, but it is, and it's growing. And honestly, I have a friend who is in Transylvania, and I met him like 2 3 years ago. I was like, "Will you help me?" Like kind of thing, and he was super helpful. His name's Vlad, and he reached out to me and just kept reaching out to me and wanting to help me and coach me. And I'm like, "Does this guy work for Buildbox?" And but he's a genius, and like they actually he's always in good talking about all the latest features coming out. He's a QA guy, so he
Hmm.
personally will send them QA, anything he finds, bugs, and he documents them very well. And if he sees anything, he fixes it for me. If they release something, there might be an issue with a node. He'll say, "Hey,
Oh,
use this
nice.
node instead." He's always, I know, there's been some hiccups that make me wonder, but they're I guess they're just young and growing, but they've really come
Hmm.
out with a good product. Uh, it helps me get my ideas out, and so I kind of look forward to whatever the next steps are. It might be with Billbox, but I know that apparently they got some things on the horizon with per, uh, performance enhancements, improvements,
Hmm.
and but I
Well,
haven't heard much. I'm looking forward to it.
I feel the same way about you.
Well, thanks.
Looking
Am I
forward
talking
to
about
see what comes out of Snosberry Games.
hey, I got we got some stuff. I really do. I hope I can get. I'm gonna try to get a little more titles out, and I kind of took a step back from like Twitter. I was always on Twitter, just goofing off, just posting like, "Hey, doing this,
Hmm.
doing this, doing this." But beyond that, I got a full time job, and I got a wife, and I got a
Right.
family, and everything like that. And I always like try to be like intentional with my time. So when I'm doing something, like it sounds horrible, but I needed to like get me to my goal, and not just make me money or whatever, but like get me to the goal where I need to be at a place where um, I can start being an expert in my field, so I can start attracting more offers in this
Mm.
field and create a little more attention. So that's what I'm kind of working on. So I got about three things that I'll be putting out probably within the next like 2 or 3 weeks. That should be
Wow.
pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
Definitely, the
Um,
junkyard cannon's going to be in there.
right, right, right.
You know what I do want to talk about?
What?
Juice, juice,
What kind of juice?
just
Juice?
game
Juice.
juice. I'll tell you what. I
Okay.
realized this, and I kind of came up with it like over the past day. It's almost like
Okay.
everything you do in a game. If you want to make it feel juicy, it's like you just take whatever the human experience is and amplify it, you know, to the greatest degree. It's like, people don't want to see a flash. They want to see a lightning bolt, and they don't want to see
Mm.
it just like light up the area. Like they want to see the whole sky go dark, everything flash. They want to see it, feel it shake. They want to see the water tremble like a T Rex as well.
Mm.
It's like all these big gestures. When you do them all, it just makes your game so juicy. And like, um, that's what I keep thinking about with this little gun game. It's like shooting the gun. And I'm like, what can I do now? I'm like, it needs recoil. And I'm like, it needs recoil of the barrel. It needs recoil of the whole. I need to put it on wheels so it can roll back for a second. I need screen shake. And then it's like when somebody jumps off something and lands on the ground, it's like you want them to land in a powerful position, but then you want them to land like Neo
Mm.
does and like wreck the ground below it and cause a shock wave going across. It's like all these different things
Mm.
that you can keep adding, and they're so beyond. But I guess that's what people want to experience. It's they want to feel.
Yeah.
I wish there was a haptic feedback would just shock the shit out of people. That would be so great. And I think, but
You mean
anyway,
literally shock people?
yeah, like just like a good shot, just a good zap. Like they have that Pavlok that watch you can buy. Have you ever seen that? It's on Kickstarter. It used
No.
to be.
No.
It's like a watch you can get, and it's a smartwatch. I don't know. It's like it just looks like a block on your wrist to me, but it just shocks you. Like gives you a. I guess it's supposed to be like a flick or a pinch. So you wear it
Mm.
when you go to bed, and it shocks you a little bit to wake up. Or I think
Ah,
some
okay,
people
okay.
have modified it. I think, or they were. I don't know. There's a hubbub about it, but modified it to work with like doing Oculus. So as part of the
Oh,
haptic
wow.
feedback, I guess you
Okay,
could
okay.
minimize so you can give yourself like a haptic. I'm like, man, it'd be so great if they just gave you like two bare contacts on your phone. Just give you a little stun gunner.
I mean,
You
I don't
know?
know if I want the tinkered shock watch on my wrist.
Yeah,
Someone like,
you know, different strokes, different folks. We have different backgrounds. Yeah,
or I don't know. I just
exactly.
mean like hey, I like totally like took this thing beyond its like like totally disable the safety limits. Let's play around with this thing. I'm like, no, I'm not going
Right.
anywhere near that.
I get that. No,
Yeah,
100%.
I don't know. Different
Hey,
strokes. Yeah.
I don't know how it's all said, but yeah, I guess we didn't really talk about juice. think I'm just excited about juice.
Well,
You
we'll
know what
talk
really
about it
got
next
me
time.
excited? I Yeah, I
Yeah.
grabbed some. How long are these episodes going to be?
I don't know. As long as I go.
Well, all right. Well, piece me together. Make me look good. Ask me for other
Okay.
things. I'm just kidding. Not make me look good.
I'll use some.
So
I'll use some
I'm.
snap filters, and I'll give you like this
Yeah, give me a
long flowing
unicorn head.
hair and little makeup, and
That's exactly what you need to do. You can
we'll
do it.
Photoshop out the
I
door
should have
behind
wore
you,
a wig.
and put you on a beach.
I would like it. I'll deal with it. I don't know if my background has anything offensive in it. I really had to
No,
like
I don't
figure out
think
a
so.
way. Also, my eyes are effed. So if I'm sitting here and I'm squinting, I
I
look like
can't
I'm
tell.
gonna. like eat somebody's face off. Like uh, that's not me wanting
Just
to eat
classic
somebody's face
Sean.
off. Just that's Sean, the old face eating Sean. That's what they used to call me. Hey, I like that. All right, man. Well, if you have any, if you have any other things or whatever, well, I'm sorry I'm always all
Yeah.
over the place. That's how I
No, it's
operate.
good. It's good.